Hey guys, I'm Chris Long with B&W Trailer Hitches, and today we're going to install the B&W Turnoverball model 1111 on a brand new 2015 Ford F250 Super Duty. This is the same turnoverball hitch that will work on the 3/4 ton and 1 ton Fords, regardless if they're a long bed, short bed, gas or diesel, all the way back to year models 2011. Let's get started. On some models of Ford Super Duty pickup trucks, you're going to find that there's a spare tire heat shield that's in place. Now this isn't 100% necessary to pull down out of your way, but if you'll take the time to take the simple 4 fasteners that hold it into position, it'll give you a lot more working space. So let's get this heat shield out of the way. The next part of the prep process is to get this heat shield down out of the way for our center section. Now it's basically just stuck to the bottom of the bed, so you'll grab a hold of the leading edge of the shield and just pull firmly down. Might help to take a scraping tool of some kind and just work that shield loose from the bottom of the bed. On some models of these trucks, you're going to need to lower the exhaust to gain the clearance that you need between the bottom of the bed and the top of the tailpipe. Now on diesel models, you've got a much larger diameter tailpipe and you will have to do that step, and now's a good time to do so. On gas models like the one that we have here today, you may not need to do it. We supply you with this nice bracket in the kit that you'll use right here at the back. You'll take this rear exhaust attachment down, replace it with this bracket, and that'll give you the space that you need back up at the center section. The next step of the installation is probably the most important one because we only get one chance to get it right, and that's the placement and cutting of our 4-inch hole in the bed. Now the measurement on the 1111 is 46 1/8 inches from the rear edge of the truck bed, regardless if you have a short or a long bed. And you'll find that there's a divot that's right here in this flattened area of the bed. We have found that that little divot is not always consistent with that measurement, so don't go by that. I've seen it line up with it perfectly, and today our measurement's about 1/4 inch off. Now I've already taken the time to measure my measurement, 46 1/8 inches from the rear, and I've centered it up between the fender wells. So we're going to go ahead and punch our mark. And now we'll drill our pilot holes. After you drill the primary pilot hole, it's a good idea to go ahead and double check your measurements to make sure that the hole didn't wander off center. I've already done that. We're still on target for 46 1/8 inch. We're going to go ahead and pilot on out to 1/4 inch. Now that our pilot holes are properly positioned in the center of the bed, we're going to go ahead and cut our 4-inch hole. Now I like to actually run the drill backwards just a little bit to establish a cutting groove. And put it on forward, make sure your drill is on the slowest speed. Go ahead and cut your hole. And as always, after cutting the 4-inch hole in the bed, it's a good idea to take a file or even a roto file and clean off our tail filings after cutting the hole. Some models of these Ford trucks, you'll have to actually notch the bed lip in order to get the crossmember into position. Here's how you can tell if you're going to need to. Take the first crossmember that you're going to insert, slide it right up in above the driver's side frame rail and try to get this to go to the other side. If you come into contact with the bed lip before you can get the rail through, then you know that yours is going to be one that requires the notch. This one is just one of those trucks. So in your installation instructions, there's a diagram that will give you all the measurements here, but I'm going to go ahead and measure it out here. I want to come 1.5 inches from the rearward edge of that forward crossmember. Make our mark. And then we're going to go up 3/8 of an inch. Now this doesn't have to be exact science. If you want to go a half, that's probably okay. You just don't want to get up into the part where the bed lips come together and you get up into the truck bed floor. And then we want the base of that to be 7/8 of an inch wide. Again, probably okay to go up to an inch. Just make it consistent. Now we have our notch marked. We can cut that out. We can cut this out with a power hacksaw. You can even do it by hand if you like, or a cutoff wheel. I'm going to use a cutoff wheel today. We'll get this cut out and then file off our edges. With the notch cut in our bed lip, now we have the clearance to put our cross members into place. There's a real easy way to identify the difference between your rear and front cross member. The rear cross member has 2 notches cut on the passenger side and only 1 notch on the driver's side. The rear cross member is the one that we're going to install first. We're going to put the side with the 2 notches in first towards the passenger side. Line that up with the notch that you've got in the bed lip. And slide that gently across to the other side, and then we'll get this into position from under the truck. With the rear cross member inserted from the driver's side, now we need to get it into position. Now the truck we're working on today is a gas model, and on gas models of trucks you'll have a fuel vent tube clip that needs to be released from the top side of the driver's side frame rail. Simply push it off the top, lay the hose out of the way, and you'll be able to reinstall that at the end of the installation. Now when we installed this cross member from the driver's side, we did find that it kind of bumped up against the top of the shock absorber tower on the passenger side. Line that up inside the angle iron, and if you need to, take a block of wood and a hammer and tap it past the top of that shock absorber tower. Once you're past the top of the tower, you can simply take a hold of the rail and roll it up over the top of the shock using the slot in the rail that's provided. And once you get past it, right the rail and slide it to the back of the truck. Now we can put the front cross member in. With the rear cross member into position, now we can install the front cross member. This one's going to install in the exact same place, but this time the surface with the slotted holes is going to face the back of the truck. So let's get it put in the same way we did the rear one. Now we can roll it into position under the truck. Now with the front cross member inserted from the driver's side of the truck, we're going to put it up over the top of the passenger side frame rail the same way we did the rear cross member. Just bring it right up over the top of the shock absorber tower, and once you clear the tower, just roll the rail back into position, and now we can go up with our center section. When it comes time to raise the center section into position, this could be the one step of the installation where it's helpful to have a second person hold it there so that you can put the hardware in. If you have an overhead lifting device, now would be a good time to use that. Or we have available to you this device called the Hitch Helper, which is designed to be that second person. It has an angle bracket in the middle with a slot for the latch pin. Just lay this down inside the hole, line that up for the latch pin, engage the center section underneath the truck, and then use the knob to raise the center section tight against the bottom of the bed. With our overhead lifting device in place, now we can go up with our center section and get it into position. Now I've already taken the time to take these brake lines loose from the top of this bracket right here. It's a good idea to get these out of the way so that we have more clearance between the center section and that bracket. So take the time to do that and avoid damaging those lines. You'll notice that the center section has a release pin groove. You want this groove to be oriented to the driver's side of the truck. Now's also a good time to go ahead and engage that pin so that there's nothing inside the ball hole. We're going to go up with the center section by putting the passenger side up over the exhaust. Remember, if it's a diesel model, you will have wanted to take the exhaust down to give you the clearance you need, and then go up over the bracket that we took the brake lines off of. And now we'll put our center section under the ball hole and put our lifting device through the center. Orient that sideways, engage the latch pin, double check that you went through your lifting device, and now we can raise it up from the top. With the center section held firmly to the underside of the bed, Now we want to take our front and rear cross members and slide those into position. If these are having a hard time standing straight, you can take a crescent wrench and rock these into position by prying them up, and then just slide the rail right up against the center section. Do that with the front one as well. And now we're going to put our hardware in. Follow the installation instructions so that you get the hardware setups correct. Okay, we've got our 6 bolts that hold the 2 cross members in place, and they've been hand tightened. Now it's time to go up with our side plates. The first step is to take the large 3/4 inch diameter bolt and insert this through this large slot that's right over the jounce block. You come in from the back side with the large flat washer underneath the head. On some gas models, there'll be 2 lines that block this oval hole on the back. What you want to do is take those loose from the carrier bracket on the back side and just spread them out of the way. Then you can bring the bolt in from the back side. Make sure that the flat washer clears the lines. Sits nice and flat. Now, we've given you this little spacer tube that you can put right over the bolt. And now we can go up with the side plate. Hold the bolt so that you don't push it back through the frame. And then we want to secure that with a lock washer and nut. Everything can just be hand tightened right now. Now we're going to go in with these 2 1/2 inch bolts in the remaining holes. Bring these in from the back side without a flat washer. Right through the back hole. And you can go right over the top of the frame through the forward hole. This one's a little tricky. Okay, and we're going to use our flat washers, lock washers, and nut. Now we'll put in our last 2 bolts. These will be the 1/2 inch bolts that secure the side plates to the cross members. These you'll put the flat washers over the heads of the bolts and bring them in from the outsides, which is where the slotted holes are in the cross members. And then use the lock washers and nuts on the insides to secure this hardware. Just get everything hand tight, and now we're going to repeat that exact process on the passenger side. On some models of diesel pickup truck, you might find that the mounting hole on the passenger side for the 3/4 inch bolt is blocked by a sensory control module. We've given you this bracket as a part of the kit to give you an alternative mounting location so that you can still get the hardware in. Simply take the control module loose from the frame, place the bracket over the hole, put the 3/4 inch bolt through the bracket and the frame, just like you did on the driver's side. And now we have these 2 tabs that give you an alternative mounting location for the sensor module. Just follow the steps outlined in the installation instructions. It'll be a piece of cake. Now we're going to start the tightening sequence of our installation. The first bolts that we're going to tighten and torque are the 6 bolts that hold the cross members to the center section. These 1/2 inch bolts will be tightened down to 80 foot-pounds. After torquing the crossmember bolts, and before we move on with the rest of the tightening process, we want to stop here and square the hitch in the truck. Now this is extremely important if you're ever going to use another accessory like a B&W companion 5th wheel hitch or anything of that nature. What we want to do is we want to get a measuring tape or a ruler and measure from the back side of the hat channel to the forward edge of our leading crossmember, and we want this measurement to match on both the passenger and the driver's side. You can use a rubber mallet or a plastic mallet to adjust the hitch forward or rearward until those measurements line up. Once it's square in the truck, we can continue the tightening process. Now that we've got the hitch squared in the truck, we want to continue with the torquing sequence. The next bolt to tighten and torque will be the 3/4 inch bolt through the center of the side plate to 120 foot-pounds. followed by the 2 remaining side plate fasteners, the 1/2-inch ones, to 80 foot-pounds. After those are torqued, we'll torque the 2 bolts that hold the cross members to the side plates to 80 foot-pounds, and then we'll repeat that process on the passenger side. With the hitch now installed and torqued to specifications, it's time to put in our release handle. Now, if you were using an overhead lifting device, go ahead and take that out so that your release pin is free. Here's the release handle. You can insert this from the driver's side through the opening that's provided in the side plate, and then just feed it through the slot right here in the center section and line it up with the tab. Then you can take your carriage bolt, put it in through the square hole. You want the rod, the release handle, on the cab side or the forward side of the tab. Place your lock nut into position, and now we can tighten this down. Now, with our release handle installed, it's time for us to install the safety chain loops. And what we'll be doing is drilling 4 1/2-inch holes from the underside of the truck bed, using the holes in the center section as a guide. Now, you'll see that there are 2 sets of holes on either side of the center socket for the ball. We're going to use the 2 holes on either side of the socket that are the closest to the center. So these 2 holes and these 2 holes. Let's get our 1/2-inch drill bit, and we'll drill these holes from the underside. After you've drilled the 4 holes through the bed for the safety chain loops, be sure to file the tail filings off from up in the top of the bed. And as you can see, we've already dropped the U-bolts down from the top. Underneath, we're going to put our hold down springs into place. Now, these springs have a tapered look to them. You have a wide end and a narrow end. The wide end of that tapered spring faces upward against the bottom of the center section. Just place it over the U-bolt, hold it into place with your finger, take one of your 1/2-inch lock nuts, and secure it into place. Go ahead and repeat this for the other 3, and we're going to tighten these up to where they're flush with the bottom of the nut. All right. Now that we've got our lock nuts tightened up to where they're flush with the bottoms of the U-bolts, we're done under here. You just want to make sure to go ahead and replace any types of lines and hoses and anything that you took down out of the way to get the center section in. This is also the time to reattach our exhaust. Remember, if you have the diesel model, you will have to space that down, and some gas models might need clearance here, so be sure to put the bracket in that we told you about earlier. With the truck back on the ground, we've reinstalled our spare tire heat shield in the spare wheel and tire. The only thing left now is to put the ball into its position. Now, you'll want to put a thin coat of lithium grease on these 4 corners of the ball. Don't get any on the flat spots, just on the corners. Simply insert the ball down into the carrier, engage the latch pin in the driver's side fender well, and you're ready to tow a trailer. When you're not towing a trailer, disengage the pin, pull the ball out, flip it over 180 degrees, reinsert the ball into the carrier, engage the latch pin. In true B&W fashion, a hitch when you need it, a level bed when you don't.